with great thought, or we may do it based on gut instinct or on what everyone else at our church is doing, but we will respond. And I think that response will take one of our 4 basic approaches. I want to lay them out for you, and I want to say first up that none are altogether wrong, but that the first 3 are problematic. So first, we can take what might be called the converting culture approach. In this mindset, what matters most is that our nation's culture reflects biblical principles and values. Supporters of this view are willing to go to great lengths to make it happen, even if that means making alliances with corrupted politicians and political parties, or making what they might see as lesser moral compromises. Think the Christian right, especially as of late. But in a span of history where the church doesn't have a high cultural standing, this approach is going to leave a lot of people frustrated and bitter. It already has. It will only perpetuate what has been known as the culture wars, a frankly arrogant posture that pits the church against the world and does not draw a healthy line between the kingdom of God now and the kingdom of God to come. I'm not going to pretend that there aren't some good aspects of converting culture. You can trace much of its roots to the work of amazing theologians like Abraham Kuyper and Francis Schaeffer. It recognizes the reality that Christians should be engaged in all of culture, seeking to transform culture through the power of Christ, through whom all things were created and through whom all things are sustained. After all, Christ is not just the Lord of the church, but the world. And yes, Christians are called to seek the good of those around us, and to pursue justice, and to love good and shun evil. But we get into trouble when we confuse the earthly city with the heavenly city. Until Christ returns, this world will never look as it should. You can't use politics to build the New Jerusalem. You can't legislate people into the kingdom of God. In fact, I'd argue that the compromises and unholy alliances Christians have made in pursuit of converting the culture have left many more suspicious of and hardened to the message of the church, and I don't blame them. Where do we go then? Well, the next option is to respond to the age of unbelief by what I call condemning culture. This is the idea of removing ourselves from the world, retreating into a subculture, and staying well away from wider culture because society is sinful, corrupted, and antithetical to the gospel of Jesus Christ. This stream has always been part of the church's response to the challenge of living in this world. You see it in the rise of the monasteries. You see it in various parts of the Anabaptist movement. Today, you see a new version of it in Rod Dreher's best-selling book, The Benedict Option, which he calls a strategic retreat. There's certainly something admirable and beautiful to it. God does call his people to holiness. The scriptures are clear about the church being distinct from the rest of the world. We are to be salt. We are to taste different. My concern is that by itself, I just don't think the idea is all that biblical. We are to be the salt of the earth. Matthew chapter 5, verse 13. And salt maintains its flavor while it is rubbed into the foodstuff it is being used to preserve. Not only that, salt spreads its flavor too. There comes a point where we have to actually get our hands dirty and show and share the good news of Christ, and proximity and relationships are essential to making that work. It requires involvement in the local community and in the public square. If God's Old Testament people could be called to seek the welfare of the city of Babylon during their exile from their homeland, Jeremiah chapter 29, verse 7, then we should be seeking the welfare of ours too. After all, however ungodly your context, you're not in Babylon. The truth is that whether we're talking food, technology, music, or other entertainment, God gives us these things as good gifts to be enjoyed as long as we keep them in their right place by not elevating creation over the Creator. We can be skeptical of them, but we shouldn't be fearful of them. Culture is not the source of evil. That's the human heart. Mark chapter 7, verses 18 through 23. And so closing out the culture won't close out sin. The third popular response to post-Christian culture is in many ways the most attractive.